Hey everyone, this is Jesse here at Jesse Lee Strength and Fitness. Today I just wanted to briefly kind of discuss a few things that are near and dear to my heart regarding moderation and training. I just wanted to provide an example. I lift weights 3 days a week typically, and one of the things I did over the weekend, I did a lot of labor. I went away to help a friend, and I lifted, I strained, I chopped trees, I hauled wood, um, I hiked up steep inclines. It was really taxing on my system. And so the most important thing that became relative to me was whenever I got back into the gym, that I maintained my consistency. So, right, I kept the habit. Today I got warmed up, I lifted weights, but I just dialed down the volume and the intensity. So I've got some understanding volume, understanding intensity, some themes here I just kind of wanted to cover. So I think as we think about maintaining the core of who we are, like if you identify yourself as a weightlifter or a runner, or if you identify yourself as somebody who, um, is a cyclist, I think what is a good thing to do is to be identified with that identity, but also to understand how it is, unless you're getting paid millions of dollars to do it, I think it's a good opportunity for you to add in, even probably those who are getting paid millions of dollars, have to moderate all of these things: understanding volume, intensity, managing stress, recovery, overtraining, and adding variations. So I'm encouraging you not to um, back off of training per se, but I am wanting you to be mindful throughout the week to understand what I do yesterday, what I do over the weekend, how much stress, strain, and tension am I doing in my everyday life, that I need to also make sure that my strength training or my running or my cycling is also in balance. There are going to be times when your training is out of balance. Maybe you are either gearing up for a kind of competition, or you're recovering from a competition, or those types of things. So there's going to be some undulation and some things that you want to plan for in regards to that. But let me just take, for example, I'm dedicated and I'm committed to lifting weights. I'm also committed to things like running and things like that. But I also have to think about, when I am both a weight lifter and a runner, which one is going to get the most emphasis, and which one is degrading my, or I'm not sure if that's a word, declining my tissue health, and which one is kind of increasing the tissue health. So as you kind of move forward in your goals and your strength training, remembering week by week by week by week by week, if your cycling is really, really hard, maybe the weight training is moderate. Um, if you're kind of declining on the cycling, maybe the strength training kind of levels up a little bit. But if you're burning the candle at both ends, this is where we're probably going to run into injury. We're probably going to run into some pain, some dysfunctional movement patterns, which is going to keep us out of the game altogether. So today, my mindset was, let's support the habit, let's support the strength training, still get in and do the movements, but we can modulate how much load. So typically on a day like today, today I did hip thrusts, and then I did a small circuit of front foot elevated reverse lunges. I did weighted chin ups, and I did dumbbell bench press. Um, so rather than typically hitting like 3 sets of that circuit, I only hit 2 sets. I dropped the weight way back, and I did pretty moderate reps. So what I wanted to do is encourage the habit, but also just be kind to myself, giving myself a little bit of a strain. I did go up in weight on the hip thrust, but I just dropped the reps a little bit. So I still got that pump. I worked on the stability. I worked on maybe some nuances of the movement, and then I moved on. And then I went into the front foot elevated reverse lunge, which I dropped the weight. I did much less reps. And then I did much less reps on the chin ups, and then less reps, less weight on the bench press, the dumbbell bench press. And it felt great afterwards. I could just tell I was fatigued. So I got a sense of that. So I think what I encourage you to do is do the things that you love to do, but just be mindful as you go into them, the strain, the effort, and the volume, and the load, and the intensity as you kind of move through. Because there are going to be times where you can really go for it, and there's going to be also times when you can't. And that's okay. The most important thing is being consistent, showing up steadily, doing the work, and then focusing in on your recovery. So it's going to be taking a rest day. It's going to be finding ways to recuperate. It's going to be having days where you're eating good foods and quality foods and those types of things. So let's just run through this really quickly and then I'll stop my rant. So moderation in training is meaning that sometimes we're going to need to be in the gym and be present on a day that we're not feeling, or we've had a big workload. You just ran 100 miles, or you cycled 100 miles over the weekend. Maybe on Monday is a good day to take a rest rather than doing a hard strength training day. If you've done a ton of, you've been doing yoga for 6 days straight and you need to do a little bit of, maybe it's just go for a walk on the seventh day. Just try to find something that seems reasonable. And honestly, if you train mostly reasonable, you're going to have much more success. There are going to be times when you want to go for it in the gym, but maybe you shouldn't. Maybe just hold back a little bit. That's why I love things like thinking about your rate of perceived exertion and really being honest with yourself. Try to have the conversation about whether you need to go up and load the day or what you need to do. So be in the gym with yourself, have that good conversation. Training volume is the total kind of number of reps, sets, and things that you're doing throughout the week. So if you were feeling fatigued and tired, adjust your volume on that day. Get the work in, but make some adjustments. Be flexible in training. If it's on the program, stop being so damn rigid and back off a little bit. That if you were consistent with your training, the training is going to be there next week. Get back to work at that time. Intensity, obviously, there's going to be times where we can't be intense all of the time. Sometimes they're going to have to be turning the volume down a little bit. Knowing when to turn the volume up and knowing when to turn the volume down is a good skill, so continue to work on that. Managing stress. So physical exercise is a stressor to the body. Just like stress at the work, just like stress at home, all of this kind of accumulates. So if you've got a really highly stressful job and you're also running 100 miles a week and you're also managing your family, eventually probably something's going to give. So undulating the volume a little bit, maybe if you have a big running week one week, you can taper the running the next week and make sure that you're also managing your work stress and your life stress and those types of things. So being red hot in all kinds of areas typically is going to lead to some type of burnout. So just be mindful of that. And if you have a conversation, if you do a training log, maybe in the training log, kind of just be noting how you feel after each session, before each session. Maybe it's like a quick question like, how have I been feeling for the past week? How have I felt today? How do I want to feel tomorrow? Just make sure you're honest with yourself. Recovery is something that I think that us who love exercise and love fitness are afraid of. It's like rest is the death of training. And I think rest, that's exactly the wrong way to think about it. I think rest actually helps us have that better session the next time. It helps us have the better run next time. So just be thinking about rest as a key part of your training and not something that you do apprehensively. I think having scheduled rest days, having days where you're just going for a walk, maybe you're just doing some carries for 10 minutes on your rest day, or you're doing my 5 recovery movements where you're hanging from a bar. Those are really low stress days, but you're still getting work in. Find ways to get work in without being crazy stressed out and putting a bunch of tax back on the system, because you need to recover, you need to know when. So on days that you're feeling really good throughout the week, take note of that. What the training look like? Okay. Uh, the overtraining is something that we have all kinds of things because we're really stressed out. We want to train really hard to get rid of the stress. We're really anxious. We want to train. We want to run more miles because we feel anxious. We want to have the perfect body, so we're going to train just a little bit harder, a little bit longer. So what I just again, it all comes down to who's in the gym, who's doing the work. Make sure it's not that anxious person at the wheel. Make sure it's you. Make sure it's who you are and what you want to be. Sometimes good enough is good enough. So we want to be able to do this year round for the next 20 years. We want to burn ourselves out just because we're feeling anxious today. So think about things in a long-term perspective. We want to feel good this week, next year, and the next 5 years. So our training should support that rather than trying to do everything all at once. And then add just variation to the training. So if you're always running, maybe it's like, put on a ruck and go for a hike. If you're always riding the bike, maybe it's go swimming a little bit. Maybe if it's, you're constantly doing heavy deadlifts, maybe do some single leg movements, maybe add in some balancing work. So generally what I'm saying here is lift weights, go riding, go for a run, do all of those things, but make sure you're doing them appropriately and reasonably. Make sure you're taking good rest. Make sure you're keeping an eye on the volume and the intensity, making sure those are balanced. Make sure sometimes you're going for it and other times you're not. So that's really all I wanted to say today. I hope this lands well with you. I hope that you can sit with it and get something good out of it. It's something that I believe in, and it's something that we always need to be mindful of. So thank you for your time.